Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our final Fashion Means Business fashion talk for this academic year. I'll have a little bit of a break after this talk and we'll reconvene in October when term starts back for the new academic year. It's with great pleasure that I welcome Tannese Williams, Product Manager for Fashion, Home and Interiors at Pantone, who has very kindly come today to discuss how Pantone is merging physical and digital color tools. Pantone is known worldwide as the standard language for accurate color communication across the creative industries. It provides a universal language of color that enables color critical decisions through every stage of the workflow for brands and manufacturers. Tannese Williams is an expert when it comes to color. She started as a textile technologist at Intertech Testing Services. Then she progressed into material and color manager roles for Tommy Hilfiger and The Limited. And later, Tannese moved into product development roles, working extensively with global suppliers in apparel brands such as Sean Carter, Ralph Lauren, Avia, and Umbro. Tannese brings knowledge of lead use of color systems and instrumentation from her years in the textile industry. Having spent the past few weeks with Tannese, she, I can confirm, has an absolute love of color. And thank you so much for giving up your time today. And we are very grateful. And if I hand over to you, Tannese, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Hannah. It was wonderful being here. Great introduction. I just wanted to say that it's really a great honor to speak with you today, especially about color. It's been my life from, school where I was a textile technology major and had no idea that fashion and business would be so colorful and so technical. So it's been a long journey and love to share with you a little bit about Pantone. So at this time, I want to give you the overview of what we'll be talking about today. First, I will give you a little history of Pantone. And next slide, please. Definitely, I want to talk to you about the overview of the color of the year and how that is impactful and how it's created. Next slide. And then I want to show and tell. So when we talk about the physical and digital tools that Pantone offer, I'll definitely do a little demo and show and tell so you could see it in person. And afterwards, I'll have time for Q&A and anything you might need to know, I'm here for you. So let's get started with a little history of Pantone. Next slide. So 50 years of creative and technical excellence has put Pantone in the center of the color universe. Starting around 1963, Pantone introduced the Pantone matching system. And it started with 500 colors, and that was the way to communicate color around the world. So throughout the 60s through the 80s, they have established themselves with licensing software manufacturers such as with Adobe, HP, Microsoft, Canon, and has become really the leader of color. And they've created Pantone Color Institute back in 1986, and it's still here to this day. So as we go forward, next slide, the 90s are very productive times where the View Color Planner was created, and that began the trend session of Pantone Color Institute. And of course, I hope everyone remembers 1999, the first year of Color of the Year, and that color is cerulean. And I don't know if anyone remembers, but in the movie, The Devil Wears Prada, that stuff scene where Miranda sets Andy straight that the debate about the similar color belts, and they say it's not just blue, it's not just turquoise, it's not lapis, it's actually cerulean. So it was a great time to show that Pantone has affected culture, pop culture as well. And they mention in there that the professionals that made her sweater comes from a team that actually takes time to pick that color of the year and all the colors. And that team is actually the PCI staff, as I call it, the Pantone Color Institute staff. So why not share a little bit about that? So next slide. This is our team from 1999. We have Lori Pressman, Leatrice Eisman, Todd Shellman, Keith Recker, David Shaw, Lan Vu, and Michael Notte. They are the key people for Color of the Year, and they're global experts that each year we've enjoyed. So let me go next slide so I can give you a little bit of background on what Color of the Year really, how it comes. So one of the quotes from, I believe it was Lori, that said, you know, the emotional aspect of color is a large aspect of their decision making. They went through, ensure colors are selective, reflective of the collective mindset. They pull from entertainment industry, films and production, socioeconomic conditions, new lifestyle, fashion, of course, lifestyle design, so travel destinations. So there's a lot of things that come through, but they consider the color name also conveys a message that ensures they've chosen from where, you know, where the society is today. It's a symbolic of the age they're living in. So it's very current, and it's a really a global approach to just how important that color of the year is. This next slide. Next slide. So a little more history. So we have, you know, cerulean, and I wanted to point out that back in 2016, we had 2 colors a year. And of course, we've anniversaried that again last year, all the way to classic blue for 2020. And now in 2021, we have 2 colors of the year. Next slide. Which was ultimate gray and illuminating. A marriage of color conveying a message of strength and hopefulness that is both enduring and uplifting. I think it's very important to talk about how significant the 2 colors were this year with everything that the global world was going through. You know, we had ultimate gray, which is embodiment of solid and dependable elements, which are everlasting and provide a firm foundation, but also illuminating, which expresses a message of positivity and a spark of warming and social solar brightness. So where there is hope and still have a solidarity, you still have hope. And I think as we come out through this pandemic and everything that we're dealing with, these are the 2 colors that resonated with us this year. And so far, even halfway through the year, many designers and in all areas, home furnishing, makeup. I love the nails. I don't know if you can see mine, but I have illuminating. The makeup, the bikes, party bikes, StockX, just so many wonderful inspiration. And that is what the Color of the Year does. It's to inspire the community, the creative community to, you know, to reach their ultimate designs and ultimate creative aesthetics. So that's just a little history on, you know, Color of the Year. So next slide. Now I want to go into what a color journey is, as far as maybe more on a workflow or your color journey. I like to call it the 4 C's, which is concept, create, communicate, and confirm. So when we do concept, we're thinking about how you're conceptualizing your color story. You need vivid inspiration. And you take that inspiration into creating your color palette and bringing that inspiration to life. And after, you're in that communication, and that's communicating that color to your production partners, your coworkers, your suppliers, your global supply chain, and then confirm. You have to validate those colors so that you can be, you'll have quality control on the consistency of your color and be store ready. So for me, I like to think of the 4 C's, just get you in the mindset of what that color workflow or your color journey will be, whether you're a student or a professional in your creative field. So we'll start with the first concept. Next slide. I love my great assistant, my virtual assistant. When we think of conceptualizing your idea, it's really color trend, and Pantone has a wonderful array of color trend forecasting, especially when you can't get to the fashion shows, as we've noticed in the past year. You can still find wonderful avenues with Pantone View forecasts. The color planner is a 24-month ahead global art, overarching global theme. Then they have the Pantone Fashion Color Trend Report, which is also virtual. And it goes really by seasons, and the Viewpoint Color Seasonal Lifestyle, which is a 12-month projection on a whole lifestyle of color. So that's one way, kind of a physical way, but it's also digitally accessed, that you can start your concept. Next slide, please. Another way we have in just trying to gather your color inspiration, we have this color match card, and I'll show you a demo in later, but if you could see, take it out. And I have a cute video, but this color match card, it's a cute, affordable a card that fits in your wallet and everything, but you can capture the color wherever you see it, wherever you are, and it will match the closest Pantone color. So let's show the video. I would love to So as you can see in that quick video, you use this with any of your mobile devices, doesn't matter if it's an Android or an Apple, whatever, to capture whatever color you see around you and upload it on your phone, and it will give you the closest match, and it brings you into Pantone Connect. And Pantone Connect is our new app that is basically the gateway to all your physical, all your colors on a digital platform. It's pretty much seamless because it's integrated with Adobe extensions. You can convert your RGB tools, RGB colors and X colors in this feature. And it's Illustrator, Photoshop, pretty much anything that the designer are using platform, you can seamlessly bring it forth into from Pantone Connect. And just a side note, as students, I suggest you download that app now while there is a trial period of free, but there will be, it will be a nominal price too, but now is a great time to try it out and for the summer, just a little hint. So next slide. I think this is the one that has this awesome video that completely talks about Pantone Connect. Okay, so I love that video just because it's a quick way to show you how integrated the physical tools are with Pantone Connect and the digital way of how we might have to be, you know, designing now. You can have that tool. So in the video, it shows a lot of the tools that they're using side by side with the screen. So now I want to bring you into the demo side. I want to show some of those actual physical tools that you would use alongside your digital tools. So am I full screen? Okay. So here are the physical tools. And I want to, I think I'm live, correct? Okay, so I want to start with, actually, I want to start with physical tools, but let me go through the rest of the slide so you can see it, and then we'll just go straight to live. Sorry about that. Because I wanted to point out, it's easier for me to tell you what these are. So on the screen, you should see the 7-book Swatch library. That's our huge library that is usually sitting in an office where all 2,625 colors are located in each of those book by color stories. So that's the mother of all Pantone libraries. And there is the specifier color guide set that I will show you today too. The cotton chip set with removable chips, which I think it's awesome. So I will be showing you that. And our color guide too, which is the fan guide that I'm sure many people have seen, as it was the first thing that we started way back in the 60s. And next slide. Next slide. And then for tools for creation, that second C that we talk about, the color guide for sure, the cotton passport, one of my favorites, we'll go into that. And I just wanted to pull these items out to show like, this is what helps you with creating your color palettes in the cotton chip set. Next slide. I'm so excited, I want to do this demo. So just to show that, you know, when you're dealing with physical and digital tools, it's letting you know that Pantone has the Pantone Connect. It also has QTX color libraries. That is basically the digital data of every color. So no matter what design you're in, fashion or fashion accessories or hard goods, there's a tool for you to use it on both platforms. Next slide. And this is an important part. That's why I brought it back. Pantone has 2 different paper systems. And I want to point it out as many times as I can. There's a graphic system and there's a fashion home interiors. So I am the product manager for fashion home interiors. So I will be showing you fashion home interior products. But the difference between these two, I think it's always good to know. So let's go to the next slide so I can tell you. In graphics world, you might know it from like, say, a formula guide. You've heard of that. It is for color inspiration, color specification and evaluation and approval, but in a digital or printed products or glossy and mattes, plastics. So it's for a printed process because this is ink on paper. So when you see the fan guides, that is ink on paper. So it's good for packaging. Think of it that way. When you're doing your packaging, anything that's on paper with prints, that is when you'd use the graphic system. When we go to FHI system, it's actually a pigment on paper. It's a lacquered pigment that is also for color inspiration, specification, also evaluation, but on textile and all non-printed products. So it's a vast area. So when you talk about non-printed products, you're talking about things like maybe the accessories on your garments, like the rubber on a button or a metallic and you want to, a metal that you want to color. It also talks about hard goods and finishing such as leathers, ceramics, and home furnishing, pretty much everything else. So I want to make that clear. Packaging, if you're thinking packaging in prints and digital, you definitely want to do the graphic system. If you're doing anything on non-printed material, you know, textiles all the way to leathers, any hard surfaces, it is the closest match with the FHI system. It's made for that. So you're getting the true color of what that product would look like. So I hope I was clear, but next slide. Now, within the FHI system, we have the paper and the textiles. And I do want to explain to you, when would you create with the paper versus the textile? On the screen you see here is the top level is actually our cotton chips from our cotton chip book. And it is in direct correlation with our chips from our specifier. And you can see the color is still matched with our cotton and paper system. The color stays the same. We have Numeritive expert that makes sure that they are seamlessly together. So I'll explain to you when you would use both. Next slide. So here, we'll start with paper. And now we can go live with the demo. So TPG stands for, the P stands for paper. And you want to use your paper textiles, your paper products, which can start, I like to start with the fan guides, because I think most people know the Pantone fan guides. This now we have two, because we have so many colors. We have two guides, and we make it in color families. So you have your red and your purples, and then you have your greens and yellows in the book. So you would use this for color identification, just to start your, you know, your creative process. You know, you might have gotten your trend, your ideas of where you're looking. You know, maybe you're looking in the yellows because of the color of the year. It gives you a nice way to identify physically, you know, the colors. And you would use this in accordance with, say, Pantone Connect. Once you decide that you like this color, you see it on screen, you match it, and you kind of look at it on the physical product. So this is the color guide, and it's an entry-level product too. So it's easy to, it's accessible for all levels. And I want to point out that this is the mini. We added 315 new colors last year. So this is the guide of all those 315 colors. Not a lot of people know that there's so much more new colors from our history, where we started at 500 now, and you can see, fast forward, we're at over 2,625 just in cotton. But then we have polyester system that has 203. We have the nylon brights, it's 21. So there's so much more to come. So, you know, there's little fun guides to go here. Next step after our color guide, we have what we call the specifier. And if you saw it in the book, in the video, this is the fun part of it. I'll show you. Inside the book are these sheets, and they're perforated, so they're removable. And this is a great physical way of finding the shades that you're looking for. They give you 6 of each color, so you could really, we call it tear and share. So when you're in an office environment or in a team environment, it's easy for everyone to just, you know, take the perforated part and kind of start building their own palette with that. And the book comes with this nifty, hope you can see that. So, you know, when you're deciding on your color palettes, you could just like slide them in this cute little pockets. So it makes for really hands-on color development, you know, color palette development. So the specifier also has 2 color family. So just as the paper guide, we have the blue book. And now let's try to show you like just so much. When you love color, this is exciting because you're like, oh, I have so much to choose from. So those are some of the highlights of the paper, but I cannot not mention that we have metallic and shimmers. And this is really great for the market of cosmetics and any hard goods. So you're thinking about handbags, shoes, fashion accessories. That's when you want to work in the paper because it gives you the closest match to what that color would look like on any multiple surfaces. So, you know, now that a lot of people are home and they're redecorating, and you might want to create a color theme room, you know that your cushions can match your table, your you know, your lamp, your vases, all of that, and your makeup. You could, you know, I have an Oasis blue room, so I was in the mood of turquoise. So a lot of things are turquoise, my couch, but you know, you can match that through the paper guide, and this one is the metallic and shimmers. So much fun, especially if you're in accessories and cosmetics. I think that's your space you want to be in. So now that's my highlights for paper. Next slide. I really want to get into textile. So when do we use textile? It seems, you know, intuitively that it will be when you're working with soft goods and you're working in textiles. So this is actually the number one way, the most accurate way to communicate your color. And what I want to show you, I'll show you here because I have it in the color of the year. This is our swatch card, ultimate gray. You can see the bright yellow. That was my favorite. So the swatch card is our color standard. To me, this is our color contract with your supplier. When you're communicating, there is spectral data, which is the actual fingerprint of the color. Like it's unique way of communicating. So I'll talk a little bit more about it, but it definitely starts here. The world starts here with our color standard. But with that, I want to show you some of the products, some of my favorite products that helps you get there. So the paper, the cotton passport. I don't know if everyone can see. So this cotton passport is my ultimate favorite. I shouldn't have favorites, but I do. Don't share. So this is an accordion style book that shows every cotton color we have. So the whole 2,625 colors is in this nifty accordion book, and it's in color family. So when you're deciding on, you know, I want an orange, you know, you can just see all the oranges that's available to you at one glance. And you might want to see how it looks with, say, the blues. So it's a really fun tool. I think this is one of my favorite tools just because of the ease of use. And it's portable enough where everyone from the team can actually talk and see exactly what we're talking about because the reference code is on there. It's the TCX code, the color code. You can actually reference that and communicate with your team of designer or your supplier, and you will you know exactly what that color is and have a great idea of what you will be getting. So I love this because it's portable, easy to use, one-stop, you know, reference tool. I love that. The next book I want to show you is the cotton chip set. It's a pretty intense book, right? But it's also a binder. So inside of it, you could just snap out the page. So of course, Illuminating is my favorite. So I have this page, and what's fun about it? Removable swatches. So the removable swatch is a 1x1, so it's a chip that really helps you start to build your color palette. So here, I think colorists would love this tool the most. I was a colorist, but I think because you can just easily see the color, but it's a little bit bigger, so you can actually start doing like your color matching and laying it into stories. So you have different color stories. And the great thing about it, on the back, it tells you exactly where you got it from, what book, because it's a 3-book system. So this will tell you, you know, it's in binder 3, page 3.74, the column and the row, so you can put it back when you're done playing with color. So the color chip, cotton chip set comes in 3. I think you saw it earlier, but I love this for actually doing the work of selecting your palettes and deciding really what you're moving on to for not just development, but going into production. So there's so many more, but I think those starts the process really well. And of course, the swatch library, it is humongous, but I have to take the moment just to show you how impressive this is. I hope everyone can see that. Okay, so this is book 7, and out of, 1 of 7. And just look at this beautiful. Okay, so just to take it out, this is a 2x2 swatch. So this is something that you would want to have like your library, and it's a larger way of selecting your colors. You keep this to maybe at the office or the studio where everyone can really get access to the color. But I love it because it opens up kind of like a notebook, and you can actually work with that. But that is the major physical tools that I think everyone should be aware of, no matter where you are. So some things for portable and easy to just put in your bag, some things to keep at the office or your design studio to start the process of your color workflow or your color journey. So those are some of the highlights. So next slide, I wanna make sure I gave you a little show and tell. And of course, I alluded to the swatch card. I just want to let you know exactly, because this is how you would go to the next step in the 4 C's. Communication. When you send all the beautiful color cards that, the colors, the numbers that you selected, when you're communicating to your vendor, they're going to be using the swatch card. The swatch card, this is the 100% cotton, Pima cotton, and it's backed with the spectral data. So this is not just fabric, it comes with the recipe of how to recreate this color. Designers would use it to communicate, but the dye houses needed to replicate that color. We're giving them the recipe and the spectral data, which is, if you go to the next slide, I think it's a good, yes, here. So with the spectral data, we call it a spectral curve. Every color has its own specific scientific curve, and that is what we're measuring on, say, a spectrophotometer, and it's giving you that reading to help that dye house match that color exactly. Like I said before, it's an actual individual color, like your fingerprint. And it responds to QTX data if you're doing data color tools, or CXF data if you're doing X-Rite tools. And X-Rite is part of Pantone. We're actually the same company. And if you've noted the history on the history slide, we are part X-Rite Pantone. X-Rite is great for the color measuring equipment. And of course, Pantone is part of for the color. So it's a great merge, right? To get your whole color development process through. And we're owned by Danaher, which is a huge conglomerate. You should check it out, especially as students. another little hint, a little tip. Coming into the market, definitely look into Danaher. They have the specific area that we're in is color communication and packaging. So you want to, there's so many ways to communicate color. And of course, we do it in packaging for graphics and in design and for the design area, whether it's fashion, home, or interiors. So we are one small part of this humongous support system, which I think is great because they're very big on education, very big on diversity and inclusion. So I'm very happy to be a part of such a legacy. So just letting you know, look that up, students, because they are hiring. And they're global. So they're hiring across the globe. Okay, just letting you know. So here's here's the swatch card. The most important thing, this is your only standard. And if you want to be a little more technical, we have the highest, strictest standard. There's a delta of 0.5 delta E. That means every color that you see in every time you get a swatch of the same color, the variance has to be 0.5 before they even make it as a swatch card. So you're getting consistent color. Next slide. Now, when we've communicated to the vendor or the supplier, your design house on what that color is, they are using that spectral data and sending you back usually lab dips or their form of, options on if they hit the color that you asked for. How do you validate that? You validate it with usually a light booth like you see here, and it has multiple light source. You have to make sure that this color is the color that they're giving you is matched to your standard, and it looks the same under multiple light sources. If not, next slide. Next slide. If not, you have something called Metamerism. Probably my biggest pet peeve, okay? So what is Metamerism? I'm glad you asked. I feel like, Professor, you might see me one day. So no, Metamerism is when there's a color change between different light sources. The best way I can describe it is you go into a store and they might have a cool white fluorescent light bulb, and you think you have bought this wonderful glove and it's hunter green, and all the trims on there is matching perfectly. And you go outside and you just put it on because you can't wait, and it looks like an olive green because now you're in daylight, which is D65, right? So, or nothing is matching, the buttons on your shirt or your, jacket, you thought match, and you go outside and it's not. So that's Metamerism. And if you think about like a fashion merchandising majors or business, any major, the colorist, the designer, this should be someone's worst nightmare, right? That your product may be returned because it does not perform. Color is the first thing we see. It's an emotional connection, but it's also a very technical aspect. There's a whole world of industry for color, right? So when something does not match, the tension, the expectation, it's disappointing, and it can equal into loss of dollars, loss of confidence in that retailer or that brand. So we take color very seriously here at Pantone, and you should too. Okay, so I think I've made my point about Metamerism. You don't want it. So now, next slide. I think we're at the part where I can say, if you have any questions, we should open up to it. I want to thank you for just giving me the chance to talk so much about color and about Pantone and some of, really things that are important to me from my heart. So thank you. And if there's questions, I would love to answer some of them for you.
Tannese, thank you very, very much. We do have a few questions. We have a couple of questions that were asked ahead of the session. Those of you that have questions that are here today, please do just type into the Q&A. So Tannese, it was very clear during your talk that color is very close to your heart, and you have an absolute love of color, as I mentioned earlier. There is a question that came in, which I think is probably an appropriate question to start with. Did you know that you would be working with color when you started your career?
You know, I did. And this is an interesting story because as a child, we're going way back, I thought I wanted to be a fashion designer. So fashion and color always to me made sense. I design my outfits and I would have to find the right color in the crayon box. And it was never the color I wanted to have blended. So I always knew from a really small age that it would be something in fashion and color. But did I know going into college, like first of all, I went to Philadelphia College of Textiles and Science, now Jefferson University, give me a little woo-hoo in Philadelphia. Did I know there was such a science behind it, that it's chemistry? It's so, so scientific and so fascinating. I had no idea. I thought that it would be, you know, just blending, you know, you learn how to mix paint. So no, I didn't know that part, but I knew color would be a part of my career. So I, you know, started it by looking in the school that I would go to. And I chose textile because it had classes that talks about color. There was like color theory 101. I'm like, wow, we're going to talk about color for the whole semester. And yes, it was a very intense class. So yes, and it really did prepare me to my professional life, where I've always had to deal with color. Intertech testing, we're evaluating color and color fastness after washing or exposure to light. All of that, you know, wearing the white coat was all preparation for pretty much where I am today. So you want to crystallize in what your passion is and just go into like all the different avenues that it can lead you. You know, it's more than just the surface, but I hope I answered your question.
Great, thank you. So where would you recommend for a beginner to interior design, or fashion for that matter, to get more information and creativity on colors?
Well, I suggest if you want, if you're not ready to go to school, even whatever age you are, you know, I go to Pantone.com. I go there to the Color Institute because there's so much research that's already been done just to show you the vastness of, you know, where color starts, you know, from an emotional connection to application. And so there's a good resources there. And then I do suggest you will start your career by really going to a design school that offer things that have color theory, color management. There's associations, global associations, AATCC, that you can align yourself with as students before you become a professional. That gives you training. You know, they'll even test you on your color eye. There's a Farnsworth test by Munsell that you have to take if you're a colorist every 2 years to make sure you can see all ranges of color. But you want to start with, do a little research. And Pantone's a great place to start that research and really follow through with the studies that you will need. And when you're looking in those studies, look for classes that specifically will give you the history of color and the application, you know, how it's applied. Dyeing and finishing class, there should be in every design situation. There should be a dyeing and finishing class. There should be a color theory, a textile 101. These are the things that you look for, that you know you will touch on color, on all multiple substrates, not just fabric, but also how it relates to in hard goods when I say that, like, you know, different substrates. So it's a good place to start for that.
And hence your different books of colors, you know, the different, you know, cottons and chips, because color can look quite different depending on the base.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why I think that's why the paper system works so well, because it really takes into consideration the different substrates. So it's a way to start your quest on color. And the fan guide is affordable, you know, especially students, where you can really start that. And now with the Pantone Connect, there'll be tools in there that really helps you see color in a different way, where there's check your hues, you know, hue family, contrast, complementary. Like there's things in there that will, you know, just give you what the relationship to the colors are to each other. And that helps you build your color sense and, you know, strengthen your color eye as well. So.
And am I right in thinking that Pantone run webinars?
Well, we do. We have webinars from on different systems. So I do the FHI webinars, and there's a graphic webinar that happens throughout the year. And we do post it on the Pantone.com site. And what we will be doing too is having quick videos of how-tos, how to use the product. And hopefully it'll land on the website. If not, it will also be on our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel have some information now, but it will definitely be getting more robust as new PMs are here. I'm fairly new at Pantone, so and so is our graphic designer, Lou. So very much will be, we have an educational focus. So definitely always check online and see when the next one, and I'll give you a little hint. I will be having a webinar in June, having about the great debate about digitalists versus traditionalists. So, you know, the fast forward, think 3D, you know, virtual fashion versus handcrafted design that really takes, do everything by hand and look at physical color. So it should be a really fun debate. It'll be check our website, but that should be a nice educational and fun on where fashion and design is going, and but also what we should do to make sure we stay true to our aesthetic and authenticity. So look forward to that.
Brilliant. And actually that leads me very nicely on to our next question. So obviously the fashion industry has changed considerably since back in the 60s when Pantone was first born. So the question is, how does the panel view the ability for retailers to be able to react to fast emerging trends? I mean, even you shared that in the past year alone, I think you've added a further 300 colors, something like that. 350 new colors this year alone. So I suppose with that in mind, and thinking about fast fashion and the debate of fast fashion, and then the more conscious, sort of slower, a traditional approach, I suppose, or maybe the kind of newer approach where people are trying to be sort of more sustainable. How is color forecasting changing in this context, do you think?
Well, I think the forecasting is still very much gathering what's going on in the culture, the environment, and that, but it's the access of that color is becoming seamless. It's, you know, it's so global that you see that color on, you know, on a digital platform, and you can get that color within, you know, days of in a physical form. If you want to see that, or you can actually start creating from that digital form, that color that you see, and create a whole line basically virtually. And everything has this digital information system that goes straight to your supply chain, that you can create something within weeks, you know. And I think what retailers are doing now too is curating where that client or the customer sees something and is okay for waiting for that whole production, and it's more specialized to that customer. So a lot of things are going from design to product, shipped right to your house, which I think is fascinating. There's a few designers that are basically you're building your own line for that customer, specifically the color they're looking for, their size that they've done 3D measurements for. So I think with technology and the digital access globally, retailers are coming to that, pushing forward more to, it doesn't have to be fast fashion, it's just getting to you faster. When it comes to sustainability, I think it's a big topic that I personally feel strong about, and doing more things for our product line that you will see in the future, that it will be sustainable substrates. Of course, our process have always been sustainable as far as non-toxic dyes and the process of lower use of water. But in today's age, I think we have to be way more conscious in the fashion industry, particularly, but all the industries really, on the resources that we use and how we can reuse those recycles. So recycled elements, recycled substrates are, to me, mandatory. And an what is it called?
Upcycling.
Upcycling, thanks. I was going to say recycle, but upcycling, and just having really high quality goods that will last over time and can be used again in another way. So I think all of us play a conscious effort in how we are sustainable and how we affect our environment. Retailers have to put that forth.
Yeah, just because you brought out 350 new colors doesn't mean to say that the colors you had before are still not going to be in demand for that particular year or season. So yeah. Okay, thank you, Tannese. So we have a question from Sam. He says, thank you very much for the most amazing lecture. He's asking, how do you solve the problem of metamerism? I can never say that word. To ensure it stays constant over different lighting ranges. And in fact, I did notice on your slides, it said, what do you do in the absence of a light box? So perhaps you could share, because many of the students will not have access to a light box.
Yes. So, okay. So in the absence of light box, we do have this, I should have mentioned that, but we have a lighting indicator sticker, right? And the sticker, when your lighting is in, say, we have it for a D65, which is daylight, which I think is more the primary industry standard lighting that you want to make sure everything matches to. If it's matching, if you have a consistent daylight lighting, the stickers will look the same. It's one color, it will look the same. If the more you go away from that lighting, you will see the difference between the two stickers. And I probably will post something so you could see what I'm talking about. And then you know that you're not in a D65 environment or a daylight controlled environment. So it gives you a quick reference of, okay, these colors are not matching. And you can see whether it's, bluer, red, or green, that kind of color. But that's just a quick way if you don't have a lighting. But there's always, as a colorist, I've done many creative things to get the proper lighting. I've created my own light box with getting cool white fluorescent light bulbs and creating an actual box. But I think the lighting sticker is the best way to do that. Now, in a professional environment, how do you prevent metamerism? Really is using the correct recipe that is given from the standards. And because we have a delta E of 0.5, it will not range but physically, the physical eye does not see point from 0.75. So visually, you will not see the difference. But when you do a spectral reading with a spectrophotometer and a light box, it will show you where you're flaring and how to correct your dye recipe. So it's really based on the dye recipe and communicating with the mill, actually the manufacturer that's making your color. So those spectral readings, and they will tell you where you are. If you're in the too red zone or too yellow zone, too blue zone, that is how that's why there's a lab dip process. That is how you ensure, like, okay, it matches here in D65, but in cool white fluorescent, it needs to go bluer. So we make those comments to get to that perfect color under every light source. That is what a colorist or a product developer, I'm trying to think, designers might have that, and depending the brand, might have that job, but you need that instrument to give you that accurate color throughout your light source. It's the next level to, being as accurate you can for color, and not just the visual. But, two different ways, but I think the lighting sticker has been very helpful, especially from working from home.
Yeah.
Our colorists, it definitely lets you know if you're in a D65 or a D50 for graphics light source. And I think there'll be more products down the line that will give you desktop readings that makes it a little more convenient to be wherever you are. So stay tuned.
Really good to know. So we do have quite a few questions, but I'm conscious of the time. And actually, Tannese, ahead of this talk, you did say you were happy for people to link in with you. So perhaps if there are unanswered questions today that you would like to ask Tannese, I'm sure, Tannese, you will be, well, you did share, you'll be open.
Most definitely. So here's my LinkedIn social. So definitely reach out to me, and send me a little note that you saw this program today, just so I can, thank you for joining. So definitely reach out to me.
Brilliant. And just one final question. You recommended going on Pantone, having a look at the resources there, but are there any recommendations on books or kind of, resources that students could perhaps tap into to gain more understanding of color?
Yes, I mean, I think that, let's see if you could see too. I just want to give you a quick example. Can you see this?
Yes, we can see
that. Okay, so it's the Pantone, the color planner, just because it's editorial, but in the back of it too, what I love about it is it gives you swatches, actual color swatches, so the editorial and explanation of color and how you get inspired or how it's developed, it also makes you see it in a physical form to see just how it relates editorially and digitally when you see it on the concept and the physical. I think this is a great investment because it's for 2 years ahead of. I really suggest anyone that wants to go into what color developing trend and color trend, something like this helps you understand the whole overarching theme of color. So these are tools that you never really want to neglect. And it's an investment, but I think it's one that's good. And the color trend report also really breaks that, and you can get that like online as well, but it really breaks down the why behind color, which I think is important. And I think I'll post some other things because throughout the years, I think there's some tried and true old books on color that I can't remember the name that I will post because I have it somewhere in my library that is not too far, but that's definitely helped me with color theory and, the emotional connection to color. I think is important because that's how you communicate to your audience. You know, color draws you in and brings you to different places. So I think it's important to understand it.
Tannese, thank you very, very much. Sadly, we have no more time, but
yes, we're out of time, but I
grateful.
appreciate you. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you so much for this lab, you know, just having a time to talk about the things I like to talk about, which is color. But definitely link me, and I appreciate so much. And yes, you know, this right here, I'm sure you definitely should get this. You can have fun with it too. And then maybe there's a way we can share this with our audience. So let's see what happens.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
very
so
grateful.
much. Have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, you have a great day. It's just starting
Okay.
for you. Take care.